Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Popcorn Bucket List, the podcast that keeps your movie bucket list up to date because those 1,000 movies to see before you die lists are just too daunting. I'm your host and resident time and space traveler, Gracie, and with me is Daryl, friend to Wookiees, Vulcans, and ETs of all kinds, and Sarah, our resident Georges Melies buff.
What's up? How y'all doing?
Hey, movie lovers. Today we're going to be covering one of me and Gracie's favorite historical filmmakers, and that is going to be Georges Méliès, the man, the myth, the magician. He was one of the first to combine the power of film and the power of theater. Our source for today is going to be the official Georges Méliès website. So if there's anything that we don't cover, you can check those guys out and find out some more info on him.
Actually, I also saw you can also email one of the descendants of Georges Méliès as well. Like they're the ones that run the website. So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
So it's like official.
Yeah,
I like
it's
that.
Like super official. Like we only get the best for our followers. So
only the best links we have here.
No Wikipedia from us.
I'm closing my Wikipedia tabs right now.
So born in Paris, 1861, Georges Méliès grew up with a classical education and from an early age fell in love with the arts. He wanted to be involved in puppetry, stage design, as well as stage illusion. Yet in 1884, he took over the family's footwear factory, and that was just what his parents wanted, and he was doing this because they had provided an education for him. So it was just, the standard, you must do what, you were meant to do kind of thing. But here he was able to save up money to buy his own theater. The theater was called Robert Houdin. I hope I'm saying that right. From this point on, Méliès was making a living as a theatrical showman. And what I mean by that is like, your stereotypical magician or your illusionist. It was his theater, so he put on the shows. He designed all his tricks there, that kind of thing. In December of 1895, the Lumiere Brothers debuted the cinematograph with the train coming to the station. Sorry if I said the cinematograph wrong, to all my past French teachers. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's an important word they taught you.
Yeah. And me stumbling over that word and then being mad at myself because I couldn't say the French word. I almost had a minor in French. Who knew?
That's what the almost is for.
Yeah, very close. I knew what I was doing when I didn't get that degree. So The Train Coming to the Station was a film of just that, a train coming into a station. They had set up the camera and they filmed the train rolling in. And when they showed the audiences, like they ducked and screamed in terror because they really thought a train would hit them. And of course, who was in the audience? None other than Georges Méliès. Méliès was so astounded by this invention that he offered to buy it from the Lumiere Brothers that night. However, they turned him down, not wanting to share their secrets, I mean, who would? They just invented moving pictures. Why would they want to share secrets? Méliès was determined, though, to figure out motion pictures. Ever the craftsman, he built his own camera and projector and began experimenting with the new medium. So for those who don't or can't picture it, the camera was also the projector. So you ran the camera the same way as you ran the projector, that kind of thing. One day in 1896, something happened that would change the film industry forever. He was filming a simple street scene, people walking down the street, when his camera malfunctioned and the film jammed. It took him a few seconds to fix it, and when he did, it began working as if nothing had happened. Thinking nothing of it, Méliès processed the film and was struck by the brilliant effect he had stumbled on. Objects in frame disappeared and reappeared. Melies stumbled on the idea of editing film. He could manipulate time and space through the lens of his camera. The possibilities are endless, really. Melies made over 500 films in his short career of only 16 years. In those years, he created the first horror film, the first science fiction film, and was one of the first artists to show nudity on screen, which I think is interesting.
Nice.
Yeah. You just think about it, back in 1896, there was nudity on screen and there was nobody to like go, you can't do that.
And of course, speaking of the first space science fiction film, not to talk about my thesis 3 weeks in a row, but A Trip to the Moon was part of it.
I can't say anything. I'm pretty sure I referenced the first horror film, The Haunted Castle, as well, so, in my thesis. But like everything in this business, stardom fades. Over time, Melies lost the public's interest. The horrors of war brought the world back to reality, and no one wanted to travel to the moon or under the sea. In 1923, Melies was forced to file bankruptcy, and his beloved theater was demolished. It wasn't until many years later that Melies was even recognized for his contribution to film and was rewarded with the Legion of Honor. And get this, given a rent-free apartment where he lived out the rest of his life. Like, hey, thanks for literally creating all film that we know today. Here's an apartment. But also, like, could you imagine getting a rent-free apartment in today's day?
Yeah,
like,
that would be crazy.
It'd probably be worth a lot more now than
yeah, like,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that guy down the street with the free apartment. Yeah, we hate him.
So Georges Méliès died in 1938, leaving behind a nearly forgotten legacy of 231 surviving films. We can thank Méliès for editing techniques such as dissolve, double exposure, and split screen, and creating fantasy on screen for all to enjoy. Many of his surviving films can be found for free online, so you too can experience his dreams come to life. Isn't that sad? 231 films, not even half of his entire repertoire survived the war.
Well, yeah, apparently also he burned a lot of his own films just in a rage after he had his building demolished. So I don't know.
He had a real tough time with becoming not relevant anymore, which is almost heartbreaking to think about. It's almost like, I don't know, Scorsese going, oh, my films aren't relevant anymore.
Yeah. Like, can you imagine that? Like, because like nowadays, like if you make anything, it's very hard to lose it. It's always there. And back then it's like, if there's just like a fire, everything's gone forever and there's no way to recover it because there's no copies or anything. And to be the creator of that and to destroy your own work just out of just anger, it's really sad.
Yeah. And of course, movies then were like a big form of entertainment and new and fascinating. But those names of like directors and actors, which Méliès did both, weren't like held to such high esteem as they are today. So it was so easy to become irrelevant. Like Scorsese couldn't become irrelevant. I mean, the only time that people kind of stop watching what you're doing or, supporting you is if you get canceled.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
And even then, you still exist.
Yeah. People still talk about you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're never truly forgotten in modern times.
I guess with the internet and things like that, which like things for Georges Méliès, existing work, we do have existing all over YouTube. You can literally look them up and find all his films and you can watch them. Some of them aren't, obviously the greatest quality because of being transferred over time. So, you film, critics who have a lot to do about, the way things look and, the blur, that kind of thing. It's not for you, but if you're wanting to experience silent film and really understand the storytelling that, origins of film started at. I definitely recommend checking out YouTube to look at some of the films. I mean, that's where we did a lot of our research for our podcast today. Was we watched a bunch of his films, like A Trip to the Moon, The Haunted Castle. He did a version of Cinderella, which I was like giggling because it was so cute. Like, I was like, it's the story of Cinderella. And to me, that's such a funny concept, because it's like, we've seen so many iterations of Cinderella, and his is the first on film. And that's cool to think about. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it must be nice to be the first to do something. And then for everyone to just kind of not care after you do it. It's like, that's kind of sad, but also it's like, that's so cool that he was able to do that. It's amazing.
Yeah, I definitely think he's someone who's more appreciated after his time, which is extremely sad. But just like, he is so popular in media today. One of my favorite music videos and one of my favorite bands of all time, Smashing Pumpkins' Tonight Tonight, is a direct ripoff of A Trip to the Moon, and it's amazing. It's so much fun. And my fun little tidbit about that is that the main character is Tom Kenny, and the woman with him is his real life wife. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Voice of SpongeBob.
Weird. That's so crazy.
Yeah.
I love the hints to Georges Méliès in pop culture, because sometimes it's such a specific art form of like stage on film. And like that idea, you see it all the time. I mean, the series of Unfortunate Events film, when they're doing the stage production, that I'm talking about the one with Jim Carrey, that like feel that they come across is so like Georges Méliès, and I love that. And I love that vibe that you get out of, people who try and bring that to life is really cool, because it's how they interpreted film. It was, let's bring theater to life. Like, let's bring theater to more audiences who can't see it, that kind of thing. So like, a lot of his films are big, you see a lot of the imagery around, but the biggest image that you'll know from Georges Méliès, especially for those who don't know anything about Georges Méliès, is the Man on the Moon, the scene from A Trip to the Moon, or let me see if I can get this right, French teachers, don't get mad at me, Le Voyage dans les Lunes, I believe. There you go.
That sounded right.
Sure.
Which is the original title. I feel like you should always reference at least the original title of a film. But the shot of the spaceship, which growing up I always thought was a bullet, like, because that's what it looks like.
Oh yeah,
it does. Yeah.
But it's a spaceship, and his eyes. And actually, little known fact: the face is Georges Méliès' face. In the movie.
I did not know that.
Yes. Yep. It's his face. And it's an iconic moment of him like crying. And it's a great little film. If you don't watch any of his films, at least watch this, because it is one of the most iconic films of all time. And it's literally where movie and storytelling in film started, was A Trip to the Moon. And I think that says a lot about the culture of the time, as well as how we appreciate it now. I mean, the man invented editing, like, by a mistake. Like, I think that's so, in my mind, as a editor or someone who loves editing in films, I mean, this man is my icon. Like, he's the guy that I'm like, I want to be like him when I grow up, that kind of thing. But it's like, people were like, oh, who is your, idol, or who's your hero? He would be on my list of heroes. Georges Méliès, we wouldn't be anywhere without him. And so, yeah. And if you don't know anything about Georges Méliès, and you don't feel like reading anything about him or watching his films because you're not into silent film, which is fine, we're not judging.
I'm judging. Sorry, one of us has to be pretentious, so I'm going to judge you.
Daryl is definitely going to be the one that judges you.
Yes.
But if you don't have any like interest in watching any of his work, which is, some of us think is fine, others maybe not so much, I definitely recommend checking out Martin Scorsese's film adaptation of Hugo, which is actually the film we all watched this week so that we could discuss Georges Méliès, because it's a perfect honoring. What's the word I'm looking for, guys?
Yeah, I would definitely say
it's the perfect like homage. That's the word I'm looking for to Georges Méliès, because it, while it is a stretch of the truth, and while it is, it's not really about him per se, it's about Hugo. It's a film that brings that love for his creations to life. And I think it also just brings it to a new generation of people, which I think is really cool. So I know Sarah and I had both seen Hugo beforehand. I had watched it for a film criticism class in college, and I was blown away by Martin Scorsese's film. I love the ensemble cast. And I know, Sarah, you had seen it because of a French class, or you just saw it?
I think just for fun, but I loved it. And I loved watching it again even more, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, rewatching it again and watching it with Ross, my husband. He had never seen it, and he knows very little. He knows about Georges Méliès because I rave about him a lot, and that kind of thing. But he was like, "Oh, this is actually pretty good." Like, he really enjoyed the comedic stuff in Hugo. But Daryl had never seen it. And I really am interested to see what you thought, because watching it again, I really loved everything about this film, and it definitely came to me at a good part in my life. So I'm interested to see what you think. So Daryl?
Yeah. So it's funny because I had read the book for this back in 2007 when it came out. So I actually had already known the story of it, as I remember seeing the book in like a Boy Scout magazine. They're like, "There's this new book coming out," and I was like, "I like the cover. I want to read that." It's like 600 pages, and I read it in like a day because it's mostly illustrations. But at the time, I had known who Georges Méliès was just from The Man. I mean, like, I know that that's a director, but at the time, I was like 12, so I didn't really care that much. I wasn't that into movies yet, into art film, I guess, quote unquote. If you're listening to this, I just quote with my fingers. If you're watching the video, you saw it already. But yeah, so I remember really liking the book, and then I heard they were making a movie, and I was like, "Oh, cool! I'll totally go see that." And then 13 years passed, and I finally saw it last night, and I really enjoyed it. It started off for me. At first, I was like, "Oh, I don't know if I'm going to like this," because it started off kind of like not slow, but in a way where I was like, nothing's really happening. It's just like, here's a camera basically going through a bunch of stuff. And it's very weird because it's a Martin Scorsese film. It does not at all feel like a Scorsese film. It feels like a Spielberg film. Feels like...
It's interesting because I said the same thing. I was like, this doesn't feel like a Scorsese film. Mm-hmm. But if you know old cinema and you know some of like the really old cinema stuff, you can tell he's referencing some old camera work in the beginning scene, like
definitely
scene going through the cafe and everything.
Yeah, like in that. Sunrise, I think that's where that comes
Sunrise,
from.
Wings. There's a couple of them, but like they're just some really beautiful shots that he's referencing these like very niche moments. But yeah, so
yeah, I mean that's the thing, is that although it doesn't feel like one of his movies, you can tell just he just loves it so much. He loves Georges Méliès, but he also loves filmmaking, because I mean Martin Scorsese is like one of the biggest just advocates of film preservation in the world. And so he's always referencing the old masters, basically, and that's the reason why he's such a fascinating filmmaker in general. And those elements was what I liked the most about the movie, because I guess for me, it was one of those movies that made me really happy, because like I love seeing people reference film, because I love film. So I love people talking about the things that they love. And this instance, it's just like, I love the movie. Like for him, you could tell that Scorsese loves movies and he loves the magic that movies made for him. So like for me, the big draw of the film was when you start seeing the flashback sequences, where you're seeing Georges Méliès as a younger man in his days as a magician and his days discovering cinema and being like, I want to make that. Not because I want to make like a cool art form, but because I want to do illusions. I want to do magic. And I want to make new types of magic tricks. And I thought that was such a pure desire. I want to make cool magic tricks, and I'm going to do it with this awesome machine. And that was just really nice to see. It's just one of those things that the whole time I was watching those scenes, I was just like, this is so nice. It's so nice that there was a time where movies were just made because they could, because they were like, this is so cool, we have to make new ones. We can't just not use this awesome technology we have to do it. We have to do stuff.
I think we were doing the math, and because he made like 500 movies in 16 years. What did you say? Yeah. How many movies he made in 1 year?
1 year he made like 86 or 89 movies, and I was like, geez,
that's almost crazy. 2 movies a week. That's like, I know it's not the same because they're only like 3 minutes long, but still, like, can you imagine going from concept to creation to almost editing in its own way, like, and then releasing it to the world to see, like.
Yeah, like that's crazy. And the thing about the movie that's great is it doesn't just show like him making movies, it shows a lot of the behind the scenes elements. There's this great scene where they're doing, I think it's what is it called, like the Kingdom of the Fairies. Mm-hmm. And there's a scene where they're like underwater, and you see like lobsters and stuff floating around, and they just show like, they like kind of have the camera tilt, and you see some guy dropping lobsters in the tank as they're falling down. I love that scene. So it's just so like, oh, this is so cool that this is what they had to work with. Yeah. Him making all these movies in this big greenhouse. It's just a big glass room with needed light. Like, it's fascinating. I love it. It's so cool.
Beautiful way to make film. Like, if you think about it, like, it's so poetic that they create this greenhouse practically because you need light for film. Yeah. It wasn't like they had, a bunch of really nice lights beaming at the stage. Like, they needed sunlight, and they were fighting against the clock. So not only did he make 84 films in 1 year, he made them all in the day. Like, so we only had half the year to make those 84 films. Like, I think that's just so beautiful.
Georges Méliès is really cranking out those videos. He would have made a great YouTuber.
Oh, definitely.
But yeah, watching those scenes kind of like reminded me of like when I was trying to make like films with my cousins and stuff, and like less so of me like watching the behind the scenes of like big movies, because it's like such this giant production. It's like crazy, but like him just running around with his friends and his wife and like, like feeling his passion. Amazing.
So one of the other things that I really like about Hugo, and I know it's not exactly a Georges Méliès, like, topic, but I really love the ensemble cast. It's something that I remember watching it, and I remember getting it, but watching it this time and just seeing Sacha Baron Cohen on the first couple of seconds of the film, I was like, I forgot he was in this. And he's like one of the biggest characters in the film. Like, he kind of controls the narrative of the film. And then you're seeing, Ben Kingsley, and you're seeing, Emily Mortimer and Christopher Lee. Like, Ross's jaw dropped when he saw Christopher Lee. He was like,
same.
I was so happy.
As a Tim Burton stan, I love Christopher Lee.
As a Count Dooku fan, I love Christopher Lee.
Vampire fan.
There you go. He's got something
Christopher Lee's got everything.
The great equalizers, Christopher Lee.
But then you see him, and then you see people like Richard Griffiths or Jude Law, and even like Helen McCrory. Yeah, who I was like, do you know who that is? Do you know who that is? And he was like, no, I don't. And I was like, never mind. Like, don't worry about it. But like, and then you have Chloe Moretz and Asa Butterfield, I think is how you say it. Asa Butterfield. Is that right?
I think that's right.
They are so cute and little because like
they're like babies.
They're little babies. And like I watched Asa Butterfield now in Sex Education, which I'm going from him in that down to when he was in Hugo, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then Chloe Grace Moretz is in like, you know, Kick-Ass, and she was in the new version of Carrie, which I, controversial opinion, loved. But I don't know. I just love the way it brings the world together in an ensemble. Like you get that French love feel through just the ensemble cast. And I think that's really beautiful. I don't know. Like it doesn't even like, they're not even like major story points, but they have their own like little pieces of like love and, you know, knowing who you are and being unapologetically you. Like I love that little bit with the Christopher Lee section of like, you know, he just loves books, and that's what he's meant to do. And I think that's such a beautiful moment for the film, is that realization that like you do find that moment like of, this is what I'm meant to do. I love that. I don't know. I think it's beautiful. And Sacha Baron Cohen is a joy to watch. And I love watching him in films like this, because I think I was introduced to him to Borat, and I, you know, roll eyes, and then I see him in this, and I'm like, oh, he's such a joy to watch. And I do love watching him act, because I think he has such range. And I think
definitely.
It's like watching him in Les Mis, and then going to Borat, and you're laughing your ass off, and you're going, I can't believe this is the same actor. And it's just, I don't know. I think and then Ben Kingsley, oh my God, plays Georges Melies.
And he looks like just like him too, which is really interesting.
Yeah, the makeup and costume were spot on for this film. It was so beautiful to watch, because the film takes place in 1931 or something like that. Like it's supposed to be the year that like the French suddenly decide to pay homage to him. And I think that comes across really well, because like Ross was like, okay, so this is the era of film we're in. Like we're already past like we're more in the Buster Keaton era of film rather than, you know, these like short little tidbits, like they're longer now, and, you know, that kind of thing. I think it was really interesting to watch with someone who has no historical input or knowledge. So it was cool to watch it with Ross and understand what like he was feeling throughout the film. So yeah, I think this is one of those films that you can watch and it makes you feel good. And that's all it needs to do. Like it's all it needs to do. So, you know, sometimes you don't have to love a film, but you know, if it makes you feel good, that's all that matters.
Did y'all catch Scorsese's little cameo?
I did. I loved it. He's just like an adorable little man.
Yeah,
it was great.
Yeah, he's the photographer taking their picture, right? Like, yeah. I remember I was like, "This is Scorsese," and Ross was like, "Who?"
Of course, he gave himself a camera in his cameo. I love it.
Of course, yeah.
That's the way he wants to be remembered, and that's the way I will remember him.
And it's really sad because he doesn't win Best Director that year. So this is the 2012 Academy Awards. And it wins a lot. Like even Ross was like, I remember this coming out and I remember it winning a bunch of stuff. I just don't remember seeing it. And he and I even talked about it. He was like, that's not at all what I thought the film was about. And I think that was its downfall, was that it wasn't advertised exactly as, like it was advertised one way and then you watch it and it's a different feel. And maybe that's why I didn't see it until I was older. I don't know.
I remember I actually just watched the trailer for it before watching the movie again because I was like pitching to watch it with a friend. And I was like, let's watch the trailer. And if you're not interested, I'm going to watch it later. And like the music in the trailer is so bad. Like it's like, I was like, this is not the film that I want to show you. It was not like marketed well.
It was marketed as Hugo's story, which I get because it is Hugo's story, but it doesn't come
not
across,
really though.
it doesn't come across as grand as the film is, and I think that's maybe why to me had a downfall in like why I didn't see it, or why Ross didn't see it, or Daryl, maybe why you didn't see it, that kind of thing. But it did win some awards. It won Best Achievement in Cinematography, Best Achievement in Sound Mixing, Sound Editing, Visual Effects, and Art Direction, which, I mean, it makes sense all around. And at first I was like really upset because I was like, why didn't Scorsese win Best Director?
Yeah, what else came out that year? I need to know.
The Artist.
I haven't seen The Artist.
So that's a black and white film, and it was like the big film of the year. It was like the artsy film, obviously. And I mean, it's great, and like I love it. But to me, this Hugo just encapsulates film and the love of film, that it's almost heartbreaking that Scorsese doesn't get the recognition, I guess. But I mean, who needs awards, right? Who better to make a film about than Georges Méliès, who only got a couple, that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, any other final thoughts on Hugo?
I mean, it's just one of those movies that really just put a smile on my face. It's not, it's weird to say, it doesn't happen very often. I'm very stoked when I watch my movies, but no, it was nice to watch something that was just kind of like really positive and just reminded me of like why I like film. Like why I love watching movies about movies, and I love watching movies about movies that don't feel super depressing. Like I love Sunset Boulevard, but it's a little depressing. But Hugo is not, and it's a nice change of pace for me. So that was nice.
Yeah, it is a very happy film, and it's like, it's weird. I was kind of waiting for that part in the movie because it'd been so long since I'd seen it, that like that horrible, dreadful thing happens that like gets in his way, and it wasn't half as stressful as I was waiting for it to
I was
be.
feeling
like,
that too. I was like,
when he gets caught, I'm like, oh my god, this is the worst thing to ever happen. But then like it resolves so quickly, and like then Sacha Baron Cohen's character has like his arc in that moment, and that's all like really great. So it's like, oh good, I didn't have to feel so stressed in this movie. Like,
I just got chills the moment where he comes up to him, and because the movie shifts from becoming like, oh, we need to fix Georges Méliès to we need to fix Hugo, and there's this moment, and I still have goosebumps of where he thinks he's broken the toy. And, Sacha Baron Cohen's character is like dragging him off to the orphanage or whatever. And he's like crying, and I'm feeling for this kid. And I'm like, oh, he's so close to this moment. And then, Georges Méliès shows up with, his niece or whatever it is. And he's like, oh, that's my boy. And Hugo goes, I'm so sorry, it's broken. And it's like,
no,
the thing he's like, no, it works. Like it did what it needed to do. And it was like this moment of pure, like, just catharsis of like, like he finally has what he needs and what he's wanted all along, which is not to be alone. And I think that is such a beautiful moment, especially because it's not the ending it's not the catharsis you think you're going to get. Because you think it's going to be about Georges Méliès, blowing up and having this realization, when in actuality, that kind of happens in the back, of the rest of the plot. And I think that really is a cool switcheroo.
Yeah, it centers the movie around Hugo, the actual, namesake of the movie, which is good because it's really easy in that movie because it feels like it's a lot about Georges Méliès at a certain point. But at the end of the day, they made sure, no, it is still about this little boy who just wants, a a family basically, and that's what happens, and it's lovely. It's such a nice ending.
Yeah, and I really like their spin on like a cog in the machine. Like to Hugo, that meant so much to be a cog in the machine and have meaning because, you know, he had such this love for clockwork and automata, and like I really liked that because that always has such a negative connotation, but to him it was like being part of this beautiful piece of work.
And like the idea of like every machine has its purpose, that kind of thing. And when it doesn't have it or it can't do its purpose, it's sad. And to me, that was just like so heartbreaking to think about. Like, and like I was like joking. I was like, I'm thinking about all the dead MP3 players, and you know, like it's like those type of things. And I'm like, oh, you know, my TV that's just sitting there, not plugged in. It's not doing its purpose. But no, it's got a lot of levels of dimensions for themes and for, you know, how you can connect with the film. I think there's something for everybody to find in that film. And I think that's what makes Scorsese's Hugo, which came out in 2011, one of the most beautiful films, at least in my opinion, to watch. And I definitely recommend it. If you want to watch a film that loves films, watch it.
If you put any steak into Rotten Tomatoes, it's got a 96%. So
I don't put any stake in
that. Neither do I, but good on them.
I'll agree on that one, I guess.
I'll allow it.
So I think that wraps it up for that section of our podcast. I know we don't really have that much time left, but I did want to cover some things. There is a little bit going on in movie news, not a whole heck of a lot going on right now. But I know Daryl and Sarah, you both watched the Snyder Cut this weekend, and I'm interested to hear your takes on it. So
all 4 hours and 2 minutes of it.
Yep.
Don't expect me to transition because I
That's all right. That's all right. Sarah, I already kind of said how I feel about it to you, Sarah, but you tell me what you think. What do you think?
I mean, I definitely preferred it over the original cut. It was a better movie, but I mean, I still only gave it like 2.5 stars on my Letterboxd because it didn't make me feel what I think I should have felt after spending that much time with a movie. Like, I don't know. I mean, it was fun to watch, but I wouldn't do it again.
I actually was surprised because as I said, I think last week, I was like, I can't wait to see if this is a train wreck or not. And I was like, oh, it wasn't really a train wreck. It's like the train showed up at the station and it stopped. And it's like, it made it. It got there.
I guess that's better than the original.
Yes, it is. Yes, the original basically exploded before it even left the original station. The original is just not good at all. It's funny because the Snyder Cut is actually coherent, and that's the biggest thing. It actually makes sense. And it's 4 hours, but it's like at least it spends enough time with its characters that you're like, oh, these are people. And I like Cyborg. What they did with Cyborg. Cyborg got nothing to do. He was a plot point in the first one, and this one it's like, oh, he has like the best scene in the movie, which is like, here's all your powers and what you can do. Use them wisely, my son. And it was honestly, I was like, this is really cool. This is cool. I like that. And I also like the ending. It was very different and actually entertaining. So yeah, I don't want to get into too much spoilery territory with it. I mean, because it's actually, honestly, it's different from the original film in a lot of ways. So I don't know. I feel like we should talk about like a director's cut episode one day and kind of go into that kind of stuff. That might be kind of cool.
Do you recommend seeing the trash one first?
So
because I've had people say, oh, just don't even waste your time.
So I feel there are caveats with this. I would say watch the Snyder Cut, but watch it with someone who's seen the original if you've never seen the original. That way, the whole time they can tell you like, okay, that's different, that's different, that's different. That's what I did with my roommate. He hadn't seen it, and I was like, that's different, that's different. He's like, really, that's different? I was like, yeah, they didn't do that at all. So
okay,
also someone who knows at least a little bit about comics. I don't know a whole lot about comics, but I know enough where I'm like, oh, I get that reference. That makes sense.
Interesting.
So, but yeah, it's fine. I enjoyed it. I might watch it again at some point with somebody else who hasn't seen it. I'm probably not gonna sit down and watch it myself because it's just.
You can sit down and watch it with me, so I don't have to watch the original.
All right, yeah, there you go. I'll watch it with you. We'll make an entire day out of it.
Oh, I'm not looking forward to it.
Don't worry. I think you'll. With commentary, it's more fun. It's more fun when you're watching with somebody.
Okay,
so
cool.
But yeah, Snyder Cut recommended. I guess.
Popcorn bucket list recommended.
Yes, perhaps.
So I know.
Else.
Yeah. What's up?
If nothing else, I'm glad that Zack Snyder got to make the movie that he had to step away from, and I feel like a lot of directors probably haven't had that chance, and that was a really hard decision for him to step away from it in the first place. And I did think that was like a really beautiful tribute in the credits to his daughter.
To his daughter.
And so if nothing else, I'm glad that he got to make his movie and see it through.
That's good. I like that. And I think that's probably the reason why I would watch it, is because I do believe that he was snubbed out of his creation. And I think it's not fair when, you hire a director to bring a vision to life and you don't allow him to do that. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Deadlines.
Yeah. But in other news, this is the biggest thing that we have found out this year. It's the most important thing we've found out this year. And Daryl can finally appreciate it because he's actually seen the movie. Mrs. Doubtfire, directed by Chris Columbus, has said that there are 3 other versions of the film because they let Robin Williams do his own thing. But apparently there's a rated R version of the film. And this is me saying right now, Chris Columbus, release the rated R film.
Release
I need to know. It's not even like I don't appreciate the first one, because I do. I love Mrs. Doubtfire and I love Robin Williams' performance in that. But if there's a version of the film that was cut and exists somewhere and someone has seen rated R, I need to see it. And there's no options. Chris Columbus, we know now. Someone has released it.
Yeah, hashtag Snyder Cut, hashtag Columbus Cut.
What year did Mrs. Doubtfire come out? Is there an anniversary coming up that they can do
you're
that
right. Let's see. I think that's 94.
Something like that.
Yeah, let me double check. This is 93.
93.
So, yeah.
All right. You got 2 years.
2 years.
Make it happen.
2 years.
Make it happen.
Columbus, let's go.
Zack Snyder got a whole year. You can get 2. Come on, do it.
Yeah.
Please let us see more of Robin Williams.
I think
even if it's just the outtakes.
Yeah, like even if you just showed the scenes that were cut, that's fine. Like I get if you don't want to hurt the integrity of the film, but like just let us see more Robin Williams and let us enjoy the little bits that we don't have currently and could enjoy. Like, please. This is the official popcorn bucket list stance on this matter. We need more Robin Williams, and we don't want computer generated Robin Williams. We want the real thing. Give us the footage.
Yeah, we get to at Christopher Columbus, not Christopher Columbus. Chris Columbus. We don't talk about Christopher Columbus here. We don't talk about
No.
But my boy Chris, yes, you specifically.
At Chris Columbus on Twitter and Instagram and everything. Yep. Give us the rated R version. Or there's the PG-13 version. I'll take that.
Yeah, just give us more.
Just give us something, please. Are there any other news worthy things going on, guys?
Well, Keanu Reeves he's big right now again, and his comic book that he wrote is getting a live action adaptation and a Netflix anime. Berserker is the comic, so that could be fun and more bloody Keanu Reeves content. I'm down.
Yes,
I wonder how much he'll be involved. That'll be the thing. That'll be interesting.
I haven't seen a whole lot, and I haven't read the comic yet, but I mean, you could definitely place him into that main character role.
Yeah, he's involved with the comics creation, so I think it's a safe bet that he'll be pretty involved. So that'll be exciting. I really want that. I just love seeing Keanu Reeves just kill people in movies.
Yep.
I love a good Keanu Reeves film. For those who don't know, and most people don't, because this happened this weekend, we showed Daryl Speed for the first time. Yeah. Daryl, what are your opinions on Speed?
Speed was a wonderful film, a wonderful Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock vehicle. Notice I use the word vehicle because it's a bus.
I love it.
Stupidest joke I've ever made. But yeah, it was really entertaining. I was able to scratch it off my my movie poster, my 1,500 movies list. So now I'm 35% done with the list instead of 34.9%.
Your poster sounds a lot better than mine.
It's a lot of movies.
It's a lot better than your movie posters. But if anybody wonders the train of thought of how we pick movies for movie nights, we started off the day saying we were going to watch Mary Poppins.
Yep.
Then we got, a few drinks later, we got to the location we were watching the film. And then we found out that Daryl had never seen Demolition Man. And I'm pretty sure there was a couple other movies in between Mary Poppins and Demolition Man.
But those are the main ones.
We started Demolition Man. That's what's crazy. And then somehow we got to Speed, and Daryl hadn't seen Speed, and everybody decided that it was better for us to watch Speed.
Yeah, I think we stopped to watch that Every Frame of Painting video about temp music, and for some reason Speed got brought up, and we were like, we should watch Speed instead.
I really don't. Yeah, I guess that's how it worked, because
we might have scrolled past it or something.
I don't know.
But on our way back to HBO Max or something.
But yeah, that's normal for us, is to start off with saying we're going to see something and we're going to watch something, and we end up watching something different. I think we watched Davinci Code right after. It was a long night. In
the same genre, of course, as Speed and Mary Poppins.
But Davinci Code is so good, and Paul Bettany.
Yeah, I was like, Paul Bettany, how long have you been in this movie? I've seen this before. I know you weren't in it.
I've only seen Davinci Code once, and I didn't remember Paul Bettany was in it. So I don't think I knew who he was.
He's the monk priest guy, the one that whips himself, the self-flagellant stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's him. In my mind, whenever I picture the character, though, I picture the character from Epic Movie or something like that. And I picture that character, not Paul Bettany. So maybe that's why I never remember it's him. I don't know. And Doc Ock.
Yes, Alfred Molina.
Alfred Molina is in it.
Always showing up, which is wonderful.
Who, tidbit, is in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
She didn't know that, apparently.
Didn't know that? Did you know that, Sarah?
No.
He's the guy that gets killed at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, he's with Indy in the cave. And then he's like, all right, now he's dead.
Tries to steal the treasure, and he runs off. I was like, what? But yeah, I think that's all the crazy news. You want to talk about Bigger Luke? I don't know.
Oh no, Bigger Luke. We could talk about Bigger Luke for a little bit if I can get it out, because I was trying to tell Grace and Daryl about Bigger Luke earlier, and I couldn't get it out because I was laughing so hard. But if anyone saw Mark Hamill's Instagram post or tweet, he was sharing a conspiracy theory about Bigger Luke being in the Star Wars films and how his height is compared to Han Solo. And it's just the language they used to like describe this conspiracy just had me in tears. But Mark Hamill, as always, had just the best response to it, and just he's great. You should definitely go and look at his Instagram post and check that out because it's worth a read.
I love Mark Hamill and how much he just loves being him. Yeah, I think that's just why I love it. And he appreciates everybody who loves him and just appreciates all the fandoms and stuff like that. He's definitely one of my favorites to follow online. I think he's always fun to see him interact with people. Yeah. But I think that's all the time we have for this week's episode. My name is Gracie, and you can find me at Gracie May with a Y and 3 E's on anywhere you see fit. Daryl, where can we find you?
You can find me at Darth Daryl on Twitter. That's Darrell, and Darth as in Vader. So yeah.
Or Maul. And I'm snotty.person on Instagram and snotty_person on Twitter. And both of those are snotty with an IE, not a Y.
And check us out for the latest movie news at The Popcorn Bucket List on Instagram and at TPB_podcast on Twitter, or just find us on whatever social media you use. And tune in to our YouTube channel if you want to see our beautiful faces and all our lovely reactions. Earlier, Sarah saw a bug in the middle of one of my reads and scared her, and it stopped me middle of my reads. And we upload those video versions of the podcast on Fridays. So if you don't have time to listen on Wednesday, you can always catch us on YouTube on Fridays. And for right now, and for this week, it's good to see you guys, and we'll see y'all later.
Go watch some movies.
Yeah. Go watch Speed. Do it.
No. A trip
or
to
Snyder's
the moon.
Cut.
The Snyder Cut.
No. This whole point of this podcast was a
go watch Hugo and a trip to the moon.
Yeah, go watch George Melies.
A master in his art form. Thank you.
And then watch Speed.
watch a trip to the moon, then watch Hugo, then watch Speed.
Yes, and that's the order. That's the
order. And then if you want to spend 4 hours, watch the Snyder Cut.
Yes, I will watch it with you.
All right, bye guys.
Bye.